I was just jogging from my office to my house, which is about 2 miles away. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision because I was frustrated with some work stuff that was sent to me in a really messy state. After messing around with it for about an hour, I decided to change out of my work clothes into shorts, a t-shirt, sneakers, sunglasses, and a headband, and I was ready to go. I needed to grab some paperwork from my house, probably around 20 pages or so. As I was about halfway there, I saw a guy about 200 yards ahead of me. Yo, this was kinda weird because this path only goes to my house and hardly anyone uses it. There's a cliff that goes to the back of my house, and the dude in front of me cut this piece off that led nowhere except to a dead end in my back door. I picked up my pace, turned a corner, and saw the guy at the back door to my patio. I saw him open the door, which wasn't even locked. I paused to think about what I just witnessed, knowing my wife Alice was working from home that day. I sprinted to the door, but of course, it was locked. I had the key and I used it to sneak into the house. I quietly opened the patio door and peeked inside. The kitchen, where Alice usually hangs out, was empty. I saw some of her work stuff and laptop on the table. I heard a noise upstairs near the dining room entrance. I grabbed a baton that belonged to my grandpa back when he was a cop. It was both a weapon and a sentimental reminder of him, the man I looked up to when I was a kid. I took the baton and tiptoed upstairs. The floors were carpeted. So I walked up to the bedroom door and could hear some noises coming from inside. They were kinda muffled, but I figured they were probably getting it on in there. I turned the handle and slowly opened the door, and what do I see? The guy who goes running every morning was about to get it on with my naked wife. His clothes were all over the floor. I walked up to the bed and smacked him on the ass with a baton. He let out a loud scream and grabbed his butt. Alice was just staring wide-eyed at the whole thing. With his arms and legs spread wide and his eyes wide open, she shouted something. I realized this guy was her boss, Simon Green. He rolled off Alice and got up from the bed, grabbing his butt. Stop. I was invited, I said. I looked at Alice, but she didn't say a word. Simon warned me, you better put it back or I'll take it from you and kick your ass. He was bigger and older than me, probably in his 40s while I was in my 30s. I heard he was into martial arts. He looked so confident as he threatened me, standing there naked with his pale skin in my bedroom. I didn't know him well, and he hardly knew me at all. Why I know, the funny thing is, he had no idea that I spent hours on and playing tennis. I had a killer backhand and I flashed a smile at him that seemed to really piss him off. He let out this crazy roar, like some wild animal, and then suddenly lunged at me from about 6 feet away. Without missing a beat, I smacked him in the face with my backhand. He didn't even have time to duck, and the baton hit him right on the side of his forehead. I was actually aiming for his cheek, but he must have tried to duck as he approached me, causing his head to tilt down a bit. That's why the baton ended up hitting him on the forehead. He was knocked out cold, didn't even flinch when I checked on him. I glanced over at Alice and she was zoned out, with drool coming out of her mouth. When I looked around the room, I spotted a cell phone on the dresser, standing up with the camera facing the bed. This expletive recorded everything. I grabbed the phone, unlocked it, and dialed 911. What's going on? I told them, I'm Tim Jenkins, at 12 Arbor Circle. There's a man in my house. So, I was in the bedroom when this guy came at me. I hit him and I think he's pretty messed up and needs a doctor pronto. And, oh man, my wife is here too and she seems out of it, like maybe she's on something. She's awake but not really responding. We've got some people on their way, so if you're packing, please drop your weapon. They'll come in carefully, so just chill. I get it, I'll meet them out front. I heard the sirens and went downstairs, still on the line. I grabbed a bat, just in case. So, I step out the front door and find myself in the front yard with my arms hanging by my sides when a police car pulls up followed by an ambulance. 2 officers, a man and a woman, get out of the car but don't draw their guns. The woman, who seemed like she was in charge, asks, "Are you Mr. Jenkins?" "Yes, they are up there, waiting for us," I reply. I turn around and head back inside, with the officers trailing behind. I lead them to the bedroom door and step aside. The door is open and Alice is lying on the bed, staring into space with a vacant look in her eyes. I didn't move much at all. I saw a lady cop kneeling next to Green, checking his pulse. She told another cop to call paramedics, then turned to Alice. She asked, "Are you okay?" There was no answer. The doctors came and I backed away as they worked hard on Green. More doctors arrived and Sergeant Leslie Hayden took the robe from the closet, lifted Alice off the bed, and put the robe on her. She took Alice to the guest room, then looked at me and pointed down, saying, "Go there. Don't leave, but get out of my way." I went into the kitchen and scoped it out. I transferred the video from Green's phone to my laptop that I keep in my desk drawer. Then I transferred all the phone's contents into another file. I shot the video over to my office, turned everything off, and left the phone on Alice's desk. I peeked from the kitchen as the paramedics took Green out the front door, threw him in the ambulance, and zoomed off. A cop lady I didn't recognize guided Alice into the living room, away from me. Alice walked away. Man, she didn't even bother to look up from her feet. She was just chilling in a robe and some sneakers. Then Sergeant Hayden came into the kitchen with this plainclothes detective, an old dude named John Dempster. She introduced him to me, but me and him already knew each other. My main gig now is mostly civil law, but I used to do some criminal defense back in the day. Me and Detective Dempster worked on a few cases together. I actually liked the guy, we got along pretty well. He greeted me like, "Hello Tim, I'm sorry about all this. Do you know the guy you hit, my wife's boss Simon? Hey, do you know where that guy lives? We found his clothes, sports gear, and credit card, but no ID. I don't know him well at all. Last I heard, he was married with kids in school, maybe about a year ago. Did you suspect he was messing around with your wife? No one has told me anything about what happened. I did everything from deciding to go for a run to calling 911, I didn't leave anything out. No need to do that, so did you see that guy in green when you were outside? No, not until he got out of bed. That's when I realized who he was. Did you smack him on the butt? Yeah, I didn't mean to hurt him, but I wanted him to stay away from my wife no matter what. But then you hit him again, why? Like I said, he threatened to take the club from me and beat me with it, so I had to defend myself. And then he yelled and charged at me. Yelled? Yeah, I think he was trying to scare me, and it worked. I didn't aim for his head, I aimed lower. He must have hidden or lowered his head, but it's all good. Your wife isn't a part of this, we are just testing her for drugs. I think once she wakes up, she'll back up what you're saying. You know, John, this phone belonged to Green. I think he recorded the whole thing. Maybe that's why he's here. I used the phone to call 911 and left it open when I went outside to wait. Dempster told a crime scene tech to answer the phone. I asked him what was gonna happen next. Alice, I'm not sure. Let's go check it out. He, the sergeant, and I walked into the living room where Alice was sitting with a cop and a medic. Dempster asked the doctor what was wrong with Mrs. Jenkins. We are gonna take her to the county hospital just in case, cause she seems to be in shock. Her vital signs are good. I glanced at Alice and she looked back at me. A tear rolled down from her right eye. I'm so sorry, Timmy, she said, then zoned out again. Alice. I was a bit annoyed with her. We lost connection again, but she didn't pick up. A few minutes later, she was taken away in an ambulance. I quickly changed into some clothes I had in the basement and followed behind in our car. The police were at the house, but I was told they would secure it or at least leave someone there. I called Alice's parents, who lived in a different state about 2 hours away, and gave them a brief version of what happened. I told them I would call again from the hospital. Alice and I got hitched when she was 21, right after she graduated from college, where we first met. Only had 1 year left of law school when Alice landed a job at Simon Green Insurance Company. It was a big company and he was one of the 3 owners. She started as a clerk and worked her way up to administrative assistant in Green's department for housing and automobiles. I went to company events with her but never saw anything going on between them. That was when I first met the Green family. She's been with the company for over 6 years now. I thought our marriage was solid. Until today, I never really doubted that the relationship I saw was consensual. But unless he somehow managed to drug her, this would probably end our marriage. Given the circumstances, I couldn't understand how he could have drugged her. There was no time. I thought she was waiting for him, probably naked, and she left the back door open. I wondered how many times this had happened. I loved Alice. She was pretty, cheerful, and kind. Our sex life was great. Even when I was busy, we still found time, at least on weekends. And now, I've pretty much stopped doing criminal trials. My job has gotten way more boring. I didn't really get what I saw. Green was a bigger guy, but today he didn't seem that big. I only took a quick look though, who knows? At the hospital, Simon Green's wife was in the ER. I recognized her, but she didn't seem to see me. I left everything as it was and asked about Alice. They let me go back to the room where she was sleeping. I watched her for a bit. Man, I was so lost when she pulled this on us. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I needed to know what went down before I could figure out what to do next. Then, this hot lady in a white robe came into the room and introduced herself as Dr. Moore. She asked if I was the woman's husband, and I just nodded. I asked her what was up with my wife, and she said she had some mental trauma. Apparently, she had a shock reaction that caused her to pass out, but she didn't go into a coma or anything. The doc said she'll probably wake up soon and be back to normal. I asked when that would be, and she said in about 3 to 4 hours. Hey, so it looks like the amount we gave her did the trick, thank you. I'll be there soon. I think she's okay now. She was about to leave, but I stopped her. What about Simon Green? How is he? Are you guys related? Nah, just know him. Well, I probably shouldn't say, but he's in a coma from his medication. He has a really bad head injury. She left. I was thinking about Green. I thought I had killed him, but now maybe not. I called Alice's parents and told them what I heard. They were gonna come over, but I talked them out of it. I told them that Alice probably slept with her boss. So, Joni Carson, my daughter, and I gotta have a talk. I've been worried about her for a while now. She's been acting strange. Can you please give her a chance to explain everything, Tim? Oh, I'll make sure of that, I promise. But it doesn't seem to make a difference. We'll just have to wait and see. I found Mrs. Green in the ICU waiting room and said hi. Hey, Mrs. Green, wanna talk about something? No, I'm Tim Jenkins. My wife, Alice, works with your husband. Okay, so apparently they were together. She was tall, slim, brown-haired, in her early 30s. They were getting it on in my bedroom when I walked in this morning. Talk about getting cozy. Oh, you're the dude who caught them in the act, huh? My bad, my bad. But seriously, Simon has been acting weird lately. He's been avoiding hanging out with the kids and using work as an excuse. I have a feeling he's been busy with your wife. I can't say for sure, but today's little rendezvous pretty much confirms it. Let's get down to it, like it was no big deal. So, what did the doctors say about how he's holding up? They didn't really say much, just that he might need surgery soon. Well, good luck to you. Are you bringing your kids? Nah, they are with my folks. They know he's in the hospital, nothing new. I went outside to get some air and try to clear my mind a bit. I decided not to make any decisions until I heard from Alice. I stood out there for an hour and then went back inside. Alice was still in the same room. So, I was in the ER and I walked in on her behind a curtain. She stirred a bit but was still sleeping. I sat down in a chair and ended up dozing off. I woke up when she started meowing. Oh. Her eyes flew open and she looked at me, then closed them again. She started moaning. I went to get help and Dr. Moore was at the nurse's station, so I waved to her. She quickly came over. She said the patient seems to be waking up, but I wasn't sure if I should stick around. The patient saw me and passed out again. Dr. Moore told me to wait there and went in to check on her. I could hear but not see what was happening. How? Hey Alice, can you fill me in? Alice replied in a weak voice, oh God, I'm sorry. Alice, we need you to wake up completely. You have to face the situation, whatever it is, and move on. You can't stay detached for too long. I'm going to release you this afternoon, maybe in 2 hours. Okay, where's Tim? He was here when I woke up. He thought you'd handle it better if he wasn't around. But he's nearby somewhere. I wonder how long this will go on for. I really messed up. What about Simon, is he okay? Tim hit him. We don't know if he's gonna be alright or not, he'll probably need surgery. Damn, I told him not to be so reckless, it was a stupid move. He lost, I bet I do too. Maybe you should talk to Tim, I'm sure I can find him. Or maybe it can wait until you get home. I opened the curtain and went inside, Alice. I'll take you home. I hope soon after that, okay? Thank you, I'm really sorry. We'll talk. I turned to Dr. Moore, when can we leave now? I'll start filling out the paperwork. We'll give her some medical clothes. Alice left and said, I'm so sorry, Timmy, sorry. It's just not a big deal, you have to understand. When we got home, Dr. Moore brought her a medical form. I left the room while she was changing. She seemed to take this as a rejection, and that's what it was. I had no desire to see her naked, maybe never again. They put her in a wheelchair, and as I pulled the car to the exit, she got up and got into the car. We didn't speak for the 10-minute drive. Her tears flowed, but she didn't cry. I opened the front door, and we walked into what was our happy home. Man, there were no cops there, not even a lot of stuff downstairs. Alice plopped down in the rocking chair in the living room. I'm gonna go check upstairs real quick, I'll be back. I ran up and it was a total disaster up there. In our bedroom, there was a piece of green carpet that had been cut out. I guess I'll have to investigate that. The bed was stripped down to the mattress and the drawers were pulled out but not shut all the way. I'll clean that up later. The other rooms were fine, except for some fingerprint powder in the bathroom. I really wasn't excited about talking to Alice. I called her parents and let them know she was back home. They were relieved but asked if they should come over. I didn't know what to tell them. I forced myself to go downstairs. Do you need anything? Coffee? Water? I asked Alice. She just shook her head. I sat down across from her on the couch, keeping our distance about 6 feet apart. What's going on, Alice? I thought everything was okay. It's hard to explain, Timmy. I've been working for Simon all this time. For years, I've always had a little bit of a crush on him, you know, he's kind of sexy. But in the past month or so, he's been flirting with me. He's been making little comments about how good I look, sometimes he even touches my arm or shoulder. I was surprised by his sudden change in attitude. Then, he invited me to lunch, just the two of us. Did you ever stop to think about all of this? Did you find it strange at all? Maybe just a little bit. She looked down, I have to admit, I was flattered. And is actually quite attractive. I found myself becoming interested in him. It took me a while to realize it. So, did you know that he was trying to seduce me? So, what did you decide? Let's see what happens. She put her head in her hands, but then she raised her eyes again. And at that moment, I was certain we were in trouble. It wasn't a matter of her being deceived or drugged, she actually wanted this. So, we ended up going to dinner. I asked him why he was making a move now, after all this time. He explained that he had always wanted me right from the start, but had kept that desire hidden. His exact words were, Alice, why? What's wrong with me that you were open to him? I reassured him, you're okay, Timmy. He confessed that he wanted me so badly. He said he's more into me than you, I was just old news to you but new and exciting to him. Just the idea got me all worked up. Why didn't you talk to me about it? What was I supposed to say, that I'm tempted to cheat for some more excitement? I never even considered it. How many times have you slept with Alice? Not even once. Today was supposed to be the one and only day, but then you showed up. I was scared when I saw you, especially after you beat him up. The way you looked at me with that contempt, not even hatred or anger, just like at the beginning. A quick look and then nothing. You smacked him with the baton. I thought when she said that the cops should have talked to her first before busting them. I had to do it, he rushed at me, I saw it but it happened so fast and was final. Alice, I don't believe you when you say this is the first time. I saw him come in through the back door. It wasn't locked and it didn't take me long to get inside and upstairs. But you both were naked and he was about 2 inches away from getting you. You seemed like you wanted it too, so I think you've done this before. No, not Tim, Simon and I kissed in his. Hey, so like 2 days ago, I hung out with this guy in his car. We kinda tested the waters, but I made sure he didn't go any further. I told him he could come over to our place after you went to work. It all seems so crazy, right? Like, imagine if you saw what I saw, what would you believe? Oh man, you gotta believe me, or maybe not, I don't know. I just can't seem to make you understand what I'm saying. And now, I can't believe anything you say. What should I do, Tim? I love you, I don't like Simon. He made me want him. He's so confident, he says what he wants. He wanted me and... You obviously fancied him, Alice. I need you to seriously consider this right now. If I were to act on my feelings now, we'd be on the fast track to divorce. I can't just push aside what I saw. Fine, but please don't forget that I love you. I'm really sorry that you're hurting, she said, tears streaming down her face. I turned and walked away, heading upstairs to our home office. I started going through the messages on Green's phone. Alice's phone had been blowing up with calls for the past 2 months, always in the evening. He wouldn't. Gotta ring work, there were texts too, always chatting about lunch. They'd go for lunch together about twice a week for 5 weeks. Since Alice worked from home 3 days a week, this meant that every time she went into the office, she had lunch with Green. I decided to watch his video. It all kicked off when he followed Alice up the stairs. She was in a short robe. She went into the bedroom and then threw him onto the floor. The video shook for a second as he put the phone on the dresser and pointed it towards. Yo, that bed is fire, Alice. Just how I pictured it. Thanks, sigh. She was chilling on the bed. He stripped down to his boxers and tee, all hyped up. I just want you now, he said, kinda forceful. Alice laid back and was like, all right, let's do this. He hopped on the bed, then I kicked open the door and smacked him. The sound on the video was epic. You could hear the slap loud and clear, along with his scream. I kept watching until I dialed 911. Based on the video, I wasn't sure. Alice was totally honest about it being her first time, but let's be real, she was excited for some action with Green. Maybe it was just a one-time thing like she claimed, but I had my doubts. After all, he's her boss. I walked into the living room and told Alice I had to head back to the office to wrap things up. It was already past 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I jogged back, not really caring about how Alice was feeling. I was less stressed and more pissed off than ever. I stopped what I was doing and went for a run. Tim checked out the divorce laws in our state and found out that cheating was a reason for divorce, but not many people actually use it. There wasn't any blame involved, and you could do it after being apart for 6 months if you signed a separation and property agreement. But if one person didn't sign, it could take up to 18 months. Tim wasn't sure if he wanted to divorce Alice, but he definitely wanted to separate. So he made an agreement that they would live apart, split their money, and go their own ways. She's gonna take care of herself and he's gonna take care of himself. There won't be any hanky-panky between them. And here's the kicker, they both promised not to get busy with anyone else. If one of them breaks that promise, it's game over and they'll get divorced ASAP. I grabbed 3 copies, then headed home. Alice was in the kitchen cooking dinner, not much, just some spaghetti with meat sauce and salad. She was dressed in a tracksuit, no makeup, and barefoot. She looked at me shyly and I said, "Smells good, thanks. Can I help?" "Nah, I got it," she replied. "But if you..." "Hey, you want some carrots for your salad? They are in the fridge." I chopped some up and threw them in a bowl. We ate in silence, with some red wine. We both had a glass. We did the dishes together, then let's go to the living room and talk. I could tell Alice was scared. I followed her in and she spoke in a quiet voice, "Tim, I just want to say again how sorry I am. I need to understand how I could have been so wrong. I think I need to see someone. Everything is fine, but I think we need to break up. I'll find someone else. Hey, there's an apartment nearby where you can stay. I'm not feeling comfortable staying here right now. Are you sure about this? I feel so guilty. Do you want to get a divorce and go our separate ways? This is a step towards that, but I haven't decided yet. I just needed some space to think. I wrote up a separation agreement and gave it to Alice. She read it through to the end with tears in her eyes, silent tears. I've already signed it. She looked up at me and asked if we can wait a few days to do this so she can arrange for her mom to come here. Well, I can wait a little. Let's agree on it, why not? Don't go and tell Tim I was serious. I'm going to therapy, maybe you can come if the therapist asks. I do love you, Alice, but I'm so confused and pissed off. It feels like things will never be the same between us. Me too, but you did it. You're not who I thought you were. The fact is, you got caught. You're still the same person, just not who I thought you were. Not the woman I used to love. Then she started crying. I didn't know what to do to comfort her, the woman someone who truly loved me would never pull this crap. You ain't her, maybe you're just pretending to be her, maybe not. I feel like our whole relationship has been a lie. The real question is, how big of a lie is it? So I went upstairs, packed my stuff from the main bedroom, enough to last me for the day, and crashed in the guest room. The next day was a work day, and I barely got any sleep. I woke up early, got ready, and headed to work. I left around 9 a.m. So I grabbed a McMuffin and was like, damn, I can still function. I sent a bunch of emails and left some notes in the judge's office. Then I started sorting through my stuff and totally got into it, totally forgot about Alice for a bit. Maybe this is how I gotta be during this whole separation thing. At lunch, I looked up some apartments for rent, found one just 2 blocks from work, and set up a viewing for the next morning. Friday flew by, I realized it was just my way of escaping reality. Started walking home after that. At around 5:30, we got a 3-bedroom house on rent. The lease was up in 2 months, but we ended up staying there for 4 years. It started feeling like home to us, but now it's no longer my vibe. Today, just like yesterday, I hopped on the treadmill and went in through the sliding back door. Alice was in the kitchen cooking fish stew, which smelled amazing. She was a top-notch cook. I was cool, greeted her as I walked in, and she looked at me and said she cooked fish stew. I could tell. I thanked her with a smile and said I'll go change. As we dug into the stew, Alice mentioned that her mom was on her way over. Hey, did you find a spot for yourself on Saturday? I might check out the apartment tomorrow and we can sign the papers tomorrow night. I won't be around on Saturday anyway. It doesn't have to be like this, Tim. I swear this won't happen again. But you know, promises can be broken easily. She stared at me, no tears. You're letting your emotions cloud your judgment. What would be smart for me to do? Ignore your cheating. Maybe give forgiveness a shot if it won't happen again. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can forgive you. I will never forget what happened and what I saw in the video. I can email you a copy. Oh God, Tim, she started crying. I didn't mean to be mean, I just wanted you to know what I saw. Maybe one day you'll forgive me for interfering. She ran away, up the stairs. I cleaned everything up, rented a studio apartment with a nice view of the track and park. It was halfway between work and my old place, but there was no furniture. I got a double bed, sofas, and armchairs delivered. It cost a lot, but it was necessary. I was worried about whether Alice would keep her job or get a new one. If not, I might have to give her more money. After lunch, I sat and thought about all kinds of things. I realized it was unlikely I'd ever go back to Alice. I have a friend who works at the same company as her, Michelle Davis. We went to college together and dated before I met Alice. Kinda crazy, right? So I dumped her for Alice and then she ended up leaving me for some frat dude. We still stayed in touch as friends though. One of the reasons I picked Alice was because I thought she was a bit flaky. Her quick fling with that frat boy just proved me right. She dropped him just as fast as she picked him up. We both went to law school together and she ended up marrying a guy from our class. They had a little boy and seemed to have a solid marriage. Shows how good I am at reading people, huh? I used to call her Shelley. Man, Tim, what the hell are you up to now? I heard you turned into a recluse or something. My bad, I had to defend myself against him. I'm available for lunch, are you down? It was only a couple hours away, so I met up with Shelley at a restaurant. We hugged, sat down, and ordered. While we waited for our food, she asked me to spill the beans. I opened up to her, telling her she was someone I trusted. And even after telling my story, I still trusted her. She then dropped a bombshell, saying she heard rumors about Simon Green going off the rails and possibly getting a divorce. She also mentioned hearing that Alice was dating him. I didn't believe it. So what have you heard? What's the scoop? During lunch meetings at the office, everyone was talking about it, but it was all just rumors. Green was acting strange. I've never seen him so eager before. It was like he was always on the lookout for someone to hook up with. The girls in the office were going crazy over it. So, it turns out Alice wasn't the only one catching his eye. Maybe not, but it sure seemed like she was his main target. They were seeing each other every day. No offense, but why didn't you give me a heads up? I thought about it, but I didn't want to cause any drama. What's your next move? Hey, so I got a place and we signed a separation agreement like 6 months ago, you know. But I'm not really sure about it. I hope you at least talked to her. What else could she say? She already apologized and promised not to do it again. So, in my opinion, it's a tough situation. How are you, Big Bill, and Little Will doing? Little Will is awesome. He's 3 years old and full of energy. He's starting preschool soon. And oh, Tim, you don't have to listen to my problems, yours are way more serious. I could use a break from mine. But hey, I'm here to help if I can. Just let me know if you need anything. Nothing wrong, just that he travels a lot. Sometimes when he comes back home, he seems a bit distant, not like before. Now, hearing about Alice, it got me thinking. But I've just decided to take charge. Shelley, what do you think? Maybe look into it a bit. He's a good guy. We are family, but I need some reassurance. Just talk to him, you both are good at communicating, figure it out. Tell him how you feel. I'm worried about this, he might think I don't trust him. And you, just be gentle and diplomatic. Maybe thank you. I hope things work out between you and Alice. Man, I never really got along with her back in school, you know. But I thought she was good for you. We finished lunch, gave each other a hug, and then went our separate ways. Shelley was a great woman, and I just hoped nothing bad happened to her. I heard that Alice went back to work, which made me feel relieved that she didn't get fired. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that things were done between me and Alice. We were only loyal to each other, with no kids in the picture. She didn't hold up her end of the bargain, so it was all over. I just couldn't bring myself to start fresh again. So I got stuck with some new responsibilities which sucked, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I haven't talked to Alice since I moved in last Saturday. It's been a whole week already. She left me 3 voicemails asking me to come over and chat, but I never responded. She also texted me saying she was on thin ice at work, but still employed. I ended up strolling by her place the next Saturday afternoon. I mustered up the courage to knock on the patio door. Alice's mom, Tess, was in the kitchen and let me in when she saw me. Hey Tess, is Alice here? She went out but should be back soon. Tim, she's so confused about this, maybe you guys have already decided on something. I just wanted to talk to Alice. Tess, where did she go? Tess looked a little embarrassed. She went to her friend's place. Tess, you're hiding something, you're not very good at it. Which friend did she spend the night with? Here or somewhere else? Tim, she was in a bad condition, a friend came by and they went out to grab something to eat. Tess, was this dinner yesterday? You can't keep it a secret. Yo, I saw she was standing there in front of the kitchen door, trying to block it. I just walked right past her to the front door. Then this shiny new Mustang pulls up, driven by some blonde dude. He gets out and goes around to open the passenger door. Alice bounces, all dressed up like she's going on a date from yesterday. I run up to them like, hey Alice, I came to see you. She turns around all surprised and the guy looks freaked out. Timmy, this is James from work. He had you at night. I stayed cool, but I guess something in my voice gave me away. James got scared and started to back away at work, dude. I don't want any drama, I was just trying to help. You already got what you wanted. If you stick around a little longer, you'll get more than you bargained for. He was my height and younger, I saw him get offended. Alice screamed, no, just stop, James, please leave now. James said, whatever you say, Alice, emphasizing you. I smiled at him, she gave you a good way out. Just do it, he chuckled, quickly walked around his car and drove away. I looked at Alice, that's. Listen, we both know you couldn't even last a week without breaking the agreement of no sex. I'm gonna have to bring this up and have you served once the papers are ready. Sorry Tim, I was feeling weak and needed support. I know we broke up, but I still love you, even though it may not seem like it. Seems like you just needed some new action to spice things up. What a player you've turned into. We don't need to keep in touch anymore, so get yourself a lawyer. I walked away, took a different path, and went home. It's over. So, I made this really easy choice, even though it totally caught me off guard. I've been hanging out with her for a while now, and none of this drama ever happened before. She's a looker, so it's no surprise guys are into her. I couldn't figure out why she suddenly started falling for their charm. As I headed back to my room, I decided this was gonna be one of those mysteries I'll never solve. Maybe I'll just ask her mom. Actually, I had a chance to chat with Tess about a week after our last hang. I snuck into the house when I figured Alice was at work. Gave a little knock on the door. Hey, Tess opened the patio door and let me in. So, Tim, why are you here? I wanted to talk to you and figure out what went wrong between us. I thought maybe you had some insights. Everything was going well, and then she just left me hanging. Do you have any clue why? Maybe she had some self-esteem issues. She wasn't exactly a hit with guys in high school, no curves, no boobs, just skinny. Her friends were the ones getting all the attention, filling out their bras and becoming cheerleaders. Poor Alice was always playing catch-up in the popularity department. So, they all started avoiding her, but then when she turned 17, she totally transformed. She got a bit curvier in all the right places, her face cleared up, and suddenly all the guys were all over her. She even went to prom with a jock and lost her V-card at 18. Then that summer, she went wild. She worked during the day, but every night she was out partying with her crew and boyfriends. I was freaking out that she'd end up pregnant, but she was on the pill. I was also worried about her health, but as far as I know, she was all good. But then when I saw her in college. During her first year of college, she didn't seem like she was craving sex all the time. She always seemed pretty chill to me. But she had more experience than me and told me what she liked and wanted. I was into it, but she's always been loyal since we started dating. Then Tess suddenly paused and asked, were you guys talking about having kids? Yeah, we plan on starting a family soon. But now things have gone south. Maybe she was worried that if she got pregnant, guys wouldn't be into her anymore. I think she reached out to her boss because he was stalking her and she needed help. I think this is the best I can come up with, but what about the guy with the Mustang? Same deal, a young dude with a fancy car. Probably trying to show off that she's still hot stuff. But deep down, she knew she wasn't gonna stay married or have kids. As for me, who knows? Maybe she was just in the mood. How long are you planning to stick around here? Not too long, I guess. Wishing you all the best, Tess. I filed for divorce and everything went smoothly. Alice moved out of our old place and got a new apartment closer to her job on the other side of town. I didn't talk to her after the trial. When we went to sort out our divorce, Alice ran into me in the hallway and invited me to lunch. Tim insisted on paying. I had something to say, so I agreed. We ended up at Red Lobster. I had an appetizer, she had soup. After we ordered, she looked at me and said, Tim, I really messed you up. I saw a therapist who told me I was scared of kids, but I think I'm just a lost cause. I really wanted Simon to love me. Sorry, I'll never get Alice, he's just not that into her. Man, that guy had a rough time. He didn't die, but after that, I didn't hear much about him. He's back at work part-time now, using a cane and barely using his right hand. His wife left him, good for her. I think it was harsh. Tim, you really messed up his life, as well as mine. But I think you messed up your own life even more. By the way, how are you doing? I miss you and our old life. Now I can hook up with as many guys as I want, and I'm loving it. It gets me all hot and bothered when it happens. I gotta do something about it. I don't know why this is happening to me again. Simon made me think of the guy who took me to prom and then took my virginity. Maybe I wanted to relive those good old days. Now that you are here, we can have sex just for fun. Don't be mean, she said with a laugh. I didn't mean for it to be funny, but I got the joke and laughed along with her. She said, a new man always excites me. She paused, anyway, I really miss you and our family life. I haven't found a guy who's better in bed than you. Maybe one was just as good, he's bigger, but you and I got to know each other so well. You could always satisfy me very much. I was a fool, I'll admit right now. Our conversation about her ways made me tense. I didn't really try to hide it from her and she noticed. I see you still find me attractive, Tim. I am available to you at any time. She started singing this song, just say my name and you know wherever I am, I will come running to see you again. She smiled at me, oh Alice, God, I was in a quandary. Right, so Alice was looking smoking hot, like the hottest woman I've ever seen. I was totally into her, more than any other woman I've ever met. Our waitress brought our food over, and Alice just stood up, slapped 30 on the table, and told the waitress we had to leave immediately. I was caught off guard, but both Alice and the waitress, Gwen, were looking at my crotch at the same time. Alice got all flustered, Gwen looked confused for a sec, and then she grinned and said, looks like you two need to get out of here and have some fun. She stared right at me and said, come back later, big boy, I finish at 6. She was nice. Alice grabbed my hand and gave me an angry look, then dragged me outside. Her apartment was 2.5 blocks away. We walked through the main door and took the elevator up. As soon as the elevator door closed, Alice pounced on me. She pressed me against the wall and rubbed my whole body. This will be so great, Tim. I'll pin you to the bed, she said. Fine, I said, breathing heavily. The elevator door opened and 2 women stood behind it. Alice and I exited the elevator. Man, those ladies were shocked when we hurried past them. One of them said hi to Alice, but Alice didn't even acknowledge her. When we got to her apartment, she quickly opened the door and pulled me inside. I almost tripped over the end table as we undressed. She took a step back and checked me out, and I did the same to her. She licked her lips and then I pushed her into the bedroom and laid her down on the bed. She was like, just take me now, so I went for it. But then she pushed me onto my back and was like, I'm gonna pin you down, and that's exactly what she did. Our sex was fast but intense and we both reached the finish line together. It was amazing. Afterward, we both calmed down. We just lay there for a bit, catching our breath. Maybe I should have realized how weird it was that the day of our divorce ended with such amazing sex, but I'll think about that later. Alice sat down and looked at me. It was the best sex we've ever had, the best I've ever had. I should have divorced you ages ago. I got turned on again, and the sex was intense and lasted a while. She came multiple times, just like I remembered from our best times together. When I finally reached my climax, it was just as intense and enjoyable as before. First time around, when I finally got off her, I knew if I stuck around would be back at it soon and it could be bad for my health, at least. The divorce happened in the morning, and Alice and I went at it all day until late at night. We had a light meal and I suggested we go to Red Lobster, but she shot that down real quick. She said we could just grab something from the fridge instead. We didn't even bother getting dressed to eat. After we finished the cake, she looked at me and asked if we should talk or have sex. I never knew. I hesitated for a moment, then I stood up, took her hand, and said, damn, we really went at it several times last night. They were all amazing, some slow, some hard. She was right, I knew exactly how to push her buttons and she knew mine. Sometimes sex felt like a full-on battle to see who could make the other swoon. Nobody really won that game, but it was a lot of fun to play. In the morning, we had sex again, and she made breakfast. While we were eating, I decided we needed to talk about what had happened. Alice, I really hope we can keep this up. Divorce sex was so much better. Timmy, better than honeymoon sex. Now I realize that getting married was a mistake. I thought I could keep my promise to only be with you, but I can't. This doesn't mean I want you out of my life though. I wasn't joking when I sang that James Taylor song. But eventually, Alice, I'll want to settle down and have kids. Maybe that's why you've been with other guys. I enjoy sex with you, you're the best. You'll probably always be the best I've ever had. If I'm being honest, I reckon we could carry on like this until one of us decides to call it quits. All right, let's just get on with it. We pretty much spent the whole weekend in bed, only taking short breaks to eat, shower, and use the toilet. Then on Saturday afternoon, there was a knock on the door. Alice threw on her robe and answered it. It was that woman we saw in the elevator earlier. She was older, but still looking good. Alice greeted her with a "Hi, Maisie." Maisie peeked into the apartment and saw me in my gym shorts, not trying to hide anything. Alice and I were caught kissing, and I was feeling pretty turned on. "Hey Alice, it's been a minute since I've seen you. Just wanted to make sure everything's good with you." "I'm doing great, by the way." Maisie also asked about you. She said to keep enjoying yourself, you lucky girl. I won't worry anymore. I'm sure we'll catch up soon. Alice closed the door with a giggle. Maybe you should have invited her for coffee, she likes it with cream. Can't let her miss out on that. This is crazy, Alice gave me a wedgie on Monday and we both went to work without resolving anything. I couldn't stop thinking about it all day. I would never want a serious relationship with Alice, it's just not gonna happen. But as long as the sex was amazing, I was down for it. Until I met someone I actually wanted to settle down and start a family with. Alice showed me a tough lesson, but I still wanted a family and kids. I was cautious, Alice didn't stand a chance. So, get this chick had me and 3 other dudes she was bumping uglies with. We weren't even together, but I didn't care. Actually, the idea of her being such a player kind of turned me on. I made sure to get tested regularly for STDs, but luckily, all my results came back clean. Oh, and one time I bumped into this girl named Maisie while I was leaving Alice's place. We ended up hooking up real quick, me and Alice, that is. Maisie gave me this look like she knew what was up. She said hello and mentioned that we've met before. I definitely remembered her, she was a good time. Alice mentioned that Maisie is divorced, been single for about a year now. Man, it's tough being a single woman at my age. Maisie, you always look amazing no matter how old you are, and you know it. So, are you gonna invite me in? I'm pretty sure you will. You're Tim, right? Yeah, we went up to the 4th floor where Maisie's place was, right across from Alice's apartment. And as we were at Maisie's door, Alice came out of hers. She looked at me and Maisie and started cracking up. You're quite the catch, Tim. I never would have guessed that about you when we were married, she said. Then she looked at Maisie and said, have a great time, Maisie. Tim's a real. Damn, that stallion was top-notch. She had a smooth walk. Maisie was checking out Alice and me, but first she took me to the bedroom. It was tastefully furnished, at least when we first walked in. Maisie was 40, with a son in college and a daughter working downtown. She was great in bed, and I had a real good time with her. I left the next morning, promising to stay in touch. And I actually kept that promise. It was a pleasure for me. I started wondering about the other women living on the 4th floor, but never found out. One day, I was walking past the courthouse when... So, this lady starts walking towards me, right? And then she stops and goes, hey, do we know each other? She looked all confused and then it hit me, she's Gwen, the waitress from Red Lobster. She must have recognized me or something because she started blushing. It's weird that I forgot about her, but I guess I never really paid attention to her face. Anyway, I'm Tim. Are you still working part-time at Red Lobster? Oh, and I do some modeling on the side, too. Gwen was a cute blonde with a slim figure, nice hips, and blue eyes. I remember she once asked me to meet her at 6, but it never happened. Alice and I spent the whole weekend together, Are you and your partner still going strong? Nah, not really. Well, on the day we first met, we had just come back from court where our divorce was finalized. Somehow, that seemed to give us a boost, as you can see. Okay, this is weird. Does this whole thing still work? We are dating now, no doubt about it. We are compatible in some ways, but not in others. She smiled at me and said, maybe you should ask me out on a date. I'm free today. I like the way you talk. Wanna have dinner at my place tonight? I'll cook. Looking forward to it, can't wait. Tim, that night she showed up around 6:30 looking amazing in a cute little evening dress and sandals. I whipped up some fried chicken and fried rice for us while we chatted. She was 25 and juggling gigs as a model for some clothing mags and a waitress to make ends meet. Not tied down but had split with her longtime BF about 10 months back. I was 34, raking in the dough at a law firm, with my own place and a sweet ride. Alice, Maisie, and I had our own hangouts, plus I was on good terms with a chick from work. So, I started going to the courthouse like twice a month, but I was ready to settle down and Gwen seemed pretty cool. I ended up deciding to have a fling with her and see where things went. That first night, we agreed that I would drive her home. She kissed me at her door, and I was really excited about it. But she didn't just jump straight into bed. As we kept seeing each other, I started catching feelings for her. She was beautiful and smart, and I thought she was falling for me too. On our third date, we finally got it on, and it was great. I made love to her, and she seemed to really enjoy it. That's when I made the decision to break things off with someone else. So, a few weeks after hooking up with other chicks, Gwen and I just wrapped up a wild sex sesh. We don't always make love all sweet and gentle. She's into rough stuff sometimes, just like me, and like a lot of folks, I reckon. Anyways, I opened up to Gwen about my crappy marriage and now I'm starting to catch feelings for her. I stopped banging other chicks as soon as I met you, and you're the only guy I've been with since. I haven't even kissed anyone else. I really care about you, Tim, but I'm worried about your trust issues. Will you always be suspicious of me? Look, if I tell you I'll only be with you, I'd be lying if I said I'm not a bit worried. But if you promise me, I'll do everything I can to make sure we're both faithful. Sound good? 2 weeks later, I popped the question and 3 months later, we tied the knot. Her folks were in Chicago, but we had the ceremony here. It wasn't fancy, just a small affair. I invited Alice and Maisie, and I introduced Gwen to Alice right after I proposed. Alice was nice to her. Why I know, I could tell she was kinda down. We weren't in love, but I knew she'd miss the sex. I would too, honestly. Gwen and I went to the Bahamas for our honeymoon. It was awesome. Then we moved into my place and things were going great. We decided to have kids right away and ended up having 2 in 3 years, Thomas and Eileen. I became a partner at work and bought a house in the suburbs. I stayed in touch with Alice, not the hot one. She married a guy from work a year after Gwen. So there was this guy named Larry Gibson. He was doing pretty well for himself. He had a son named Lawrence and another son named Raymond. They ended up moving to a place not too far from where Gwen and I lived. The 4 of us would run into each other in the neighborhood, and our kids even went to the same play school. Gwen and Alice hit it off and became friends, but Larry was always a bit suspicious of me. I guess he didn't trust me around Alice, and he was right, there was still some attraction between me and Alice. Gwen could tell, but she trusted me. Eventually, she even trusted Alice not to try anything with me. But Larry, he always had his doubts. Sometimes sparks flew, but we never really settled down. Me and him had a lot in common, especially our love for baseball. We played on the same men's team in the Old Timers League and we were both pretty good at it. We even got season tickets to some MLB games. We were both fans, so sometimes we'd go together. One day, I decided to have a heart-to-heart with him about my past relationship with Alice. We were waiting to leave the garage at Jim's Park after the game when I turned to him and said, "Larry, I want to be crystal clear with you, I will never hook up with Alice, never. Man, she's married again and I'm married too, this ain't gonna work. I can tell it's bothering you, Tim. Look, let's just be real about it, you and I could be cool if you just trusted me and Alice." But let's be real, Tim, it's obvious you still got some feelings from the past, lust and all that. I can't pretend like it's not there. There's a history between us, we had something good going on, but I swear to you, she probably told you the same thing. We gotta put an end to this if we can, Tim. I feel like we should just keep it casual, like seeing each other at the club or dancing. Last month, it seems like you and her had some crazy good sex together. It's kinda annoying sometimes. I wonder who she's thinking about when we are doing it, me, you, or some movie star. Do you think about her when you're with Gwen? Nah, but that doesn't mean I don't think about her at all. We had some good times too, maybe even better than ever with me. That's what really worries me, Larry. I had good sex with Alice when we were married and even after, but after that breakup was just because of sex. Love is gone. She was always amazing in bed, just like a few others I've been with. I have great sex with Gwen, sometimes it's amazing. Alice wasn't any better than Gwen or other women, they might be just as good. It's love that makes sex special. I have that with Alice and you have it with Gwen. Okay, I get what you're saying, I didn't see it that way before. Thanks, that made it easier for all four of us to have this conversation. Of course, I lied to him, no sex I've ever had with any woman has been like this. Man, I haven't had a connection like I did with Alice since the divorce. It's always on my mind, not every day, but when I see her, I can tell she feels the same. Maybe when we are both old and our partners are out of the picture, we'll give it a shot. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so your partner doesn't stray, and stay tuned for the next story because it's gonna be even better than this one.